What's going on, everybody? It's Ricky with Video Homicide. Welcome to day 27 of the 31 Days of Horror. I just got finished watching a movie that I have previously seen back when it first came out, and I remember thinking, like, how different it was at the time when it came out back in 2015. There wasn't that many movies like this kicking around in general, and that movie is The Witch. So, The Witch, and, it's also subtitled A New England Folktale. The story is pretty simple, really. It's all about this family that's the father's like uber religious, and they're living in you know I guess like the new America where there's like pilgrims and that type of shit. So they're banished from their little settlement or like plantation as they call it, and they seek out to find a new place to live, and they end up settling on this one piece of land, and it shows them sort of like camping out, uh, in between the travel between the plantation and the plot of land they choose, and then it kind of jumps forward a little bit, and they've built some shelter, a barn, and even like a little area for their livestock and stuff like that. And at this point in the game, there's the father, the mother, a son probably about 12, a daughter probably about 15, and then two twins, which are probably about like 6, and then a little baby. And one day, the oldest daughter, Thomason, is out with the baby, and it's taken. Like she's playing peekaboo with it, and she's peekaboo and looking, and then hiding her face, and then looking again, and then the baby's gone. And she's like, "What the fuck?" And the mom is just going ballistic, and the dad and the son, they go out to search around, and it doesn't really show any of the search. It just kind of does a bit of a time skip, like a week time skip, and then the son and the father go out to to look to check the traps, basically, because all their um you know what do you want to call it, produce, or their crops are all rotten, like they're growing a bunch of corn and it's all rotten. So they go out to check the traps, and then they run into this rabbit, which I think is like was marketed on the poster, and maybe even on the DVD of this film. There's this rabbit, and the father tries to shoot it, and then he kind of like doesn't blind himself, but he gets like smoke in his eyes, and the rabbit takes off, and there you have it. So uh, they go back to the house, and the mom is still like totally freaking out about the kid, and the two youngest ones, the twins, they're kind of like giving this whole story that the one goat they have is is the devil, basically, and that Thomason, the oldest daughter or oldest sister, is a witch, which she denies up until the end of the film. And it's all basically the I guess mundane trials and tribulations of that time, because like I said, they're uber religious. They everything's god this, god that, and it kind of plays it off like it's not a supernatural film up until the end, even though there's a couple of scenes that are very questionable, very freaky. Like there's one scene where this woman is like floating kind of like on a broomstick, and like you do see the what happens to the little baby that was kidnapped, that was like taken by this witch lady that kills it, and rubs the blood all over her body, and then like all the blood all over her like sort of witch's broom, and that's how she takes flight in a later scene. But it's really cool to see, like the son Caleb, he kind of embarks out on his own, but Thomason's like, I'm coming with you. So they go out looking for to check the traps. Basically, the kid wants to make himself look like he's useful and all that kind of shit. And Thomason, like the parents have basically been saying, like they're gonna like trade her off to a family, in order for the rest of them to survive, like get money or whatever it is. And it's when Thomason and her brother Caleb are out that they get uh separated, and Caleb comes across this like little witch's den where like this like what he thinks is like this hot chick really is like an old woman kind of thing, grabs him and takes him, and now he's missing, and then he wanders back to the little settlement they have, and uh you know at one point, like probably the freakiest part of the film is like it's almost like he's got lockjaw, and the dad like takes a knife and like pries the kid's mouth open, and the kid like like pukes out this apple, which is like very witch like in my opinion. Kind of harkens back to like Snow White with the like the bad witch with the fucking apple, but it was a really good movie, man. It held up. Like I remember the last time I watched it, I think I showed my girlfriend's brother and her, and they were and Kayla was into it, but I think her brother was kind of like, "What the fuck is this?" But that's understandable, like a younger guy and all that stuff. But it's a type of movie that I think you kind of got to be in the mood for. I think all of Robert Eggers' films you kind of got to be in the mood for, like this one, and same with The Lighthouse. They're both films that definitely are going to require you to use subtitles, just because it's not so much the accents or anything; it's the delivery of speech. There's a lot of like are you thy father's daughter, and like that kind of stuff. So unless you're like really well versed in fucking old, uh, you know, pilgrim style talk, you're gonna have a difficult time with these films. And even with Lighthouse, like just the way they talk is super like slangy. You know what I mean? Lots of slang in there. But I really do enjoy this film, and to spoil the ending, I really like how uh, you know, there's this kind of crazy scene where the mother who's lost like two of her kids uh, has like this hallucination where she thinks that the baby has come back, and she's like breastfeeding the baby, but in reality there's like a raven like clawing at her tit, and she's like sitting there laughing her ass off, and it's very crazy. And she kind of explodes out of the house at one point and freaks out on Thomason, and Thomason ends up killing her with a fucking knife, which I thought was crazy heavy duty scene. And the father's like attacked by Black Phillip, which is the name of the goat that the twins were saying was the devil. And Thomason ends up sort of face to face with this devil and says speak if you can speak. And then like she starts to walk away, and then all of a sudden the goat says like, well, what do you want me to say, or some shit like that. And then the goat kind of like materializes or shapeshifts into like the form of like this guy, but you don't really see the guy's face or anything. You just see like his boots, and he kind of looks like he's like in a western flick, like a badass villain in a western flick with lots of leather and spurs and all that kind of shit. And she's basically let off, or she signs this book, because they say that throughout the film, like, oh, she signed the devil's book and all this shit. And I really liked how at the end, she just kind of walks up to this group of witches out in the woods, and then they all start floating, and then she just starts floating, and that's the end of the film. I just thought it was really fun, really freaky, really atmospheric, and like I said, you got to be in the mood for this one though. You can't. I wouldn't just pop this on the same way I would pop on like Lethal Weapon. You know what I mean? But it's still really really good. So Robert Eggers, I think his two films that he has put out, this and Lighthouse, are really quality. I can't wait to see his new movie. I believe it's called The Northman or The Norseman. And I kind of like to group Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, and Jordan Peele all in the same kind of like not the same category in terms of films, but they're all sort of like horror directors that started putting stuff out around the same time. And I'm interested, like they all only have two movies out each, so I'm interested to see what happens next with these directors. So, with that being said, I appreciate everybody for watching. Leave a comment, write 666 in the comments, and let me know what you think about this flick, because, I like talking about this movie. I like talking about, trippy stuff like this. Like, I guess you could call it an art house film, but I just call it a really badass, like, indie flick from 2015. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of, like, stupendous stuff coming out at the time, unless you kind of dig around, there was good stuff, but there was a lot of stinkers. So we got to separate the ones that smell sweet from the ones that stunk, right? So adios.